Indian River Connections brings you the first source you can watch for truth on board decisions in Indian River County. The Board Report, where taxpayers and policymakers intersect. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite platform to get notified when we go live on Fridays at 7 p.m. Visit IndianRiverConnections.com for more.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Indian River Connections, brought to you by... Oh, I said that wrong. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Board Report, brought to you by Indian River Connections. I got ahead of myself there, John.
Yeah, you sure did, but that's all right. You're excited because we have a lot of great guests in the green room tonight. I'm excited to hear these stories and all the things that are happening in Brevard County and trickling into Indian River County as well.
I know a lot's been going on, and we're seeing people wanting to speak up about what's going on all around our nation, because America needs to come first. And we need to start speaking up, and we need to start standing up for this great republic that we have. Because as conservatives, we're always so polite. We always keep the volume down. We're not really action like people like the Democrats are. We're kind of passive aggressive.
Yeah, but it's not even that. I think what it comes down to is that you have to protect your mind and control your emotions and observe and not absorb what's happening. So when we react is when you get that negative feedback. So it's not really left and right, conservative and liberal. It's more or less don't overreact. And that's what happens. Right. A lot of times people get emotional about things, because emotions is what they want you to do. So it's an emotional thing, and you have to control your emotions.
Yeah. And it's easy to get emotional when you love your country so much, and you just love the people in the country, and you want your kids to be raised here. I mean, the American dream is right here. We are the most free, liberal, we've got great liberties, Florida is just taking the lead on a lot of things. And we have the open carry, and Chandler Langevin, he went out and did his Charlie Kirk open carry walk. And that's us showing how much we appreciate this nation and how important it is for us to participate and let everybody know, look what you can do here. You can't do that anywhere else. And we are responsible. We love people. We love our nation. We love our neighbors. So it's really exciting to have. We're going to have Chandler Langevin, and we're going to have Joe Murphy come on with us to talk about what's been going on in Brevard County that also affects the Treasure Coast, because we're seeing some stuff going on here too, and we'll probably dive into that as well.
Absolutely. And like you hit it right on the head. Like you have to, have love for your country and stand up and speak up. And I think that's what it all breaks down to, is standing up for your rights and speaking your truth.
Yeah. So why don't we take a break for the commercial, and then we'll be back with Chandler and Joe.
Nice.
Warrior Shield Foundation is here to unite, honor, and provide support for veterans, first responders, and Gold Star family members. The foundation will enable them to find the help they need through direct assistance or by connecting them with our Shared Vision Network. Using data-driven models, we provide solutions that make a long-lasting difference. We, along with our partners, are dedicated to bringing together like-minded groups and individuals who have committed to making a difference in the lives of our hardworking, everyday heroes. We bridge the gap by connecting warriors or their families with the assistance they deserve and require, such as service dogs, wheelchairs, counseling, scholarships, and team-building retreats, to name a few. You can help right now to make a difference for those who have helped and protected us all. Warrior Shield Foundation, selflessly doing for those who need it most.
It's a long way to home, but you won't take the hard road all alone. Just look to your left and look to your right. You
Welcome back, everybody, to the board report. We've got Joe Murphy, Chandler Langevin, and my co-host, John Karapi. How are you guys doing?
Gentlemen. Good.
Pretty good. Thank you for having us on. How's it going, John? How you doing, Joanne?
Doing great. So Chandler, lots been going on in Brevard County, and it's also we've also had some stuff going down here in Vero Beach that people are becoming aware of and looking to get focused on. But I wanted to just touch base on what happened in Brevard County, share that with us because there was a conversation. Some people were posting some things, and I just wanted you to have your word on what was actually going through your mind and what brought you to what you said.
Oh, and unmute.
Sorry.
Yep.
Well, I think it's simple. You have the modern day public square right now is on X, kind of other social media platforms as well, but you can still be censored on some of those. X is the true free speech public square. We used to have downtowns. You walk around and people would give speeches and everyone would come and listen. Now it's being done on X. So as both a citizen of the United States, but also as somebody that people look to as an elected representative, I like to share my opinion on there, and I like to get debate going, and I like to get conversation started, because it's only through having tough conversations and sometimes coarse and rigid conversations that we can move the ball down the road in whichever, in the right direction, whatever that ends up being. But if we live in an America where we're not willing to have any hard conversations, or we're so afraid to say something because we're going to offend somebody, then we're never going to accomplish anything. And quite frankly, that is what's happening right now. So obviously, under the Trump administration, we've done some great things on border security and illegal immigration. They're clearly working hard on that, but I think we're moving very slow on legal immigration. And I think that there's just as much threat or more to the country from legal immigration as there is from illegal immigration. And to explain that a little bit, the ultimate threat to our country, that all of the symptoms of the left ends up at, is the left is attempting to execute a color revolution in our country, a Marxist revolution in our country. They're trying to take over. You can go back to Obama was really sly about it. They thought they were going to seal the deal with Hillary when they couldn't do that. They stole the election in 2020, et cetera. And the stuff now that you're seeing with the Charlie Kirk and I call them Trantifa and some of these other groups, they're kind of the armed wing, but there's also a lot of other stuff going on behind the scenes. So anyways, what they do with all these left-wing policies that we think is dumb or stupid, et cetera, they're really not. They're all done on purpose because they're part of the left-wing formula to sow chaos and division, because through that chaos and division, they can implement this Marxist policy, or they can win battles in either the information sphere or in other spheres. And so illegal immigration, there's a lot of obvious things there wrong with that, with criminals coming over, with drugs coming over, et cetera, taking blue-collar jobs and whatnot. With legal immigration, though, what they're able to do is they're able to come in and take white-collar jobs, high-paying jobs. What they're also able to do, though, is legally flood an entire area like Dearborn, Michigan, with a bunch of legal immigrants, completely push the people out, and then say, I don't know, take over a congressional seat like Ilhan Omar's, right? So, or Rashid Tlaib. So, and they're doing something very similar in Texas right now with the H-1Bs and illegal immigrants of Indian descent that came across the southern border. Well, not of Indian descent. If they're illegal, they're still Indian. And if they came over on an H-1B, they're still Indian. So, yes, all the Indians that are here either illegally or that are on some sort of H-1B, they need to be cut off. They need to be stopped. They need to be sent back. We need to have a moratorium. And Congress needs to come together and completely revamp our immigration system for legal immigration in a way that actually benefits the United States and allows for that kind of legal immigration that we all grew up being told, like, it's okay if they come here legally, but now we've realized there's all this abuse and everything else with it. Let's go back to the old times that our grandparents talked about, where they're like, oh, it's okay they come here, legally, just like my Polish grandparents did in, 3 or 4 generations ago. Let's get back to that kind of mindset, and that'll be okay. But what's happening is with legal immigration comes a lot more money and legitimacy than illegal immigration. So you have a lot more donations coming from those industries. Like I said, they vote people into office because they eventually get citizenship. They can vote. Some of these blue states, they vote anyways, even if they're not legal or even if they're not citizens yet. And so they're able to implement some power up in Washington. So nobody's wanting to talk about that. It seems like it's a controversial issue. So yeah, I'm trying to push the envelope on that issue. And I'm trying to say, we need to talk about this because in the city of Palm Bay, it affects us. In the city of Palm Bay, I have residents that can't get jobs. They have 4-year degrees in computer science, can't get a job. In the city of Palm Bay, I have residents that moved here because they lived in one of those cities where heritage Americans were pushed out. And so what happened throughout the past week? Well, what I was originally coming on the podcast to talk about was a few weeks ago after Charlie Kirk passed, we had a phenomenal march, right?
Yeah.
We can talk more details about that in a little bit, but because of that march, it was not a vigil. It was a march and it was a call to action. And we called out the domestic terrorists. Trump has labeled them domestic terrorists. That's what they are. We called them out. And it was peaceful. We prayed, but we said, this is a call to action. You need to get involved. We need to go win elections. We need to win these fights. We need to win in the information sphere. We need to pray, and we need to win. So the left took that very deeply. They saw a strong conservative going out fighting for them. And what ended up happening is they couldn't tolerate that. So what the past week has been really wasn't about Indians. It was an orchestrated assault from the left to try to attack me and try to dislodge me from office and bring me down because they can't have a strong conservative that can challenge them and stand up to them. They need some of these other Republicans that wrote the letter to Ron DeSantis to try to get me removed. But so what ended up happening throughout the week is this a leftist who's on my ex screenshotted it, coordinated with obviously a left-wing news within our local community, had it cropped and kind of made it look different so that it was a little bit out of context, took it completely out of context.
I think I have a clip of that. I can show that to you.
Yeah, why don't we show that? Yeah, it's a good idea.
We'll just show that. That's that, right? That's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so there was another post that I'm responding to, which gives it a little bit more context. It's still a spicy post, and I'll admit that. But of course, they crop out what I'm responding to, and you have no idea, and so it looks worse than probably what it is. But that's fine. So,
oops, wrong one.
They created a firestorm throughout the week. Well, it just so happened that the day that it broke, I was on an airplane the majority of the day. So
you didn't even know.
I had no idea. So all these elected officials tried to call me. But where I was a little bit upset, I've since talked with the American community of Indian descent. We've had some good conversations, American citizens who happen to be of Indian descent. And we've had some good conversations. We're going to meet more in the future. I'm going to meet with them. But they didn't immediately come to me, which was kind of frustrating. They went to the politicians to try to get me, and they made them make all these statements and everything. And that was very frustrating. And so eventually I reached out to them, but I got off the plane and I had all these statements against me. It seemed like a dogpile. So I said, I'm going to go to sleep and we're just going to figure this out the next day. I made a statement the next day. And then I've got people calling for my resign. I've got Senator Rick Scott is red flag. Rick is saying things about me. So I'm like, you know what? We're just going to ride this out. I'm going to double down. That's all if you're in politics and you go through some stuff, all you can do is double down.
Yeah. You got to be tough. You got to put your armor on.
You got to put on the full armor of God, go into this spiritual battle, and you have to double down. And that's all you can do. So that's all I did. So I doubled down every day. It got worse and worse. We got to the council meeting last night. We went through it. There's no standing for this letter to remove me by the governor. I personally don't think he's going to do it. I haven't spoken to him. I can't speak for him. But at the end of the day, it doesn't meet the criteria, in my opinion, that they're saying that it's for. So anyways, I didn't think it was going to pass. We sat there. The Americans of Indian descent were actually pretty peaceful. Joe was there. I mean, some of them called for the letter to be passed, but they were like, hey, we were a little offended. it's okay, whatever. And I'm like, that's fine. I get that. I can see where it can be misconstrued. And like I said, I reached out to them and we're having some conversations. But the room was filled predominantly with these leftists. So they were doubling down on the dog pile because this was their strategist. They orchestrated this to the point that Jennifer Jenkins, the catalyst for Moms for Liberty being formed, and now the Democratic school board member, or the Democratic candidate for U.S. Senate running against Ashley Moody, came and spoke against me. And guess out of the, I also had a group of patriots speak for me, Joe being one of them. Every single one of them did a phenomenal job. They spoke great. But guess which, if you could listen to Joe speak or you could listen to Jennifer Jenkins speak on a topic, which one would you go with? Let's just ask that. Would you go Jennifer Jenkins or would you go with Joe Murphy? I would go with Patriot Joe Murphy personally, but but the rest of the council besides me went with Jennifer Jenkins, and supposedly 3 of them are Republicans. So that was frustrating, but everyone just kind of showed their true colors throughout all this. The council made, I think, a reprehensible decision. State Senator Debbie Mayfield wrote a personal letter to the governor asking him to remove me. On what grounds? Over mean tweets? If only there was another Republican in our party that was known for mean tweets, and it wasn't just me. So
we've got plenty of them too. I was pretty disappointed to see her write this letter the way she did.
I think it's funny she calls herself friends with Matt Gaetz too. Like he's never wrote a mean tweet.
He's not. And he's not a very good Second Amendment supporter either. Tried to take our AR-15s away from us.
Yeah, but
I wasn't happy about that.
It was a frustrating week, and I think at the end of the day, if the fact that Republicans are going after free speech is wild, but I think it really does I think it really sets a bad precedent if the governor passes it. Because now
I don't think he will, because he's pretty constitutional and he knows that we have an issue going on here in Florida, and
Yep, I think you're right. So
I think he's up to snuff with all that stuff. He knows what's going on. I mean, we have like 150 mosques in Florida. So the Islamic territory is growing, and those Islamic Muslims, they don't have 2 kids like we do. They multiply. They multiply like roaches and bees. They pull them out, and there'll be more of them here than us.
And I've gotten in trouble for calling that out as well. And you're 100% correct.
So they do. They're all about creating more babies, and
we have a case study in that by just looking across the pond and seeing what's happening in England. I mean, you see what's going on in London. They've lost their country entirely. So we can see that coming down the coming down the lane here for us. So the fact that we get to see that ahead of time, we know it's coming, and we're not going to go for it. So it's important that we speak up on these issues.
Yeah, exactly. It really is. What did you see in the Joe, when you were in the meeting? How did you feel when you were there?
Man, it was rough. I'm not going to lie. I had to work late. I got there a little late, and I couldn't even get into the building. It was standing room only. It was a long line just to get to put your name down to be able to speak. It was 95% organized activists.
They do know how to organize, don't they?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. And we have to in fairness, we have to respect their game. I mean, we have to say to ourselves, look, I mean, at this point, it's 2025. We got to start getting active. And the problem is conservatives don't have the same pipeline of political activism as the left does. These people are groomed from childhood through high school, through college, to be activists, to be at these meetings, to speak out and amplify their voice in a way that conservatives just don't do. We have a lot of people that still think it's 1990s. They think that, these are mild differences between the right and the left. And these aren't mild differences. These are extreme polar differences. And you can't just sit home and vote every couple of years and think that you're going to be represented, as evidenced by what happened yesterday with this Republican council. I mean, there's nothing Republican about capitulating to the left and siding with cancel culture. That is exactly how, it's basically bullying. It bullies people out of their democratic process and ability to speak on their beliefs, and it's something that needs to change. So from a strategic standpoint, us on the right, we have to be able to counteract this in some capacity. And yesterday, it meant me personally getting loud, and it meant the few other speakers getting loud and passionate. And that was our only real way to counterbalance this just absolutely insane, like 6 hours, Chandler? Like, what was this?
6 hours. Yeah. A little bit of that was the actual council meeting, but it was at least 5 hours of the communist goat rope.
Yeah, and you know, this is all about this multiculturalism, and you know, that's the salad bowl theory. It's a liberal theory of multiculturalism, and it just doesn't work, because what happens with multiculturalism, you've got immigrants that come over to don't assimilate, and when you don't assimilate, you're dividing the society with the predominant society of that nation, and you're not assimilating. So it creates that divide of mistrust. You don't trust them because they're not taking a loyalty to your nation's oath, your nation's constitution. So it doesn't work. And that's what I mean by multiculturalism. Some people get on my case because I say I'm not into multiculturalism. You know, I'm into the melting pot. Now, the melting pot means you're leaving your nation because it's been oppressing you, and you're leaving it behind. You're coming here to become American, to speak the language, to learn the values, the principles, to honor the Constitution, to say, I'm going to fight for that nation because now I'm free. Now I have the opportunity to build a business, raise my family. I have a place to be where I'm not oppressed. Oh, and I have liberty. That's, to me, that is the melting pot. That's people coming over here to be one of us. And it doesn't matter whether you're Hindu, whether you're Black, whether you're white, green, orange, Chinese. When you come here, you are an American. And that's what our culture is. It's principled. We have morals. We have a constitution that gives us our liberties. And that's what I want to see. And that's what I mean when I say I don't believe in multiculturalism, because that's got us where we are now, where people come over and they want to have, like we had this guy that came to Board of County Commissioners back in early September. And I'm like, why aren't we questioning this? This guy, he literally said that he wanted to build a community for his family and friends from India. An Indian community. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's not assimilation. That's dividing us. That's creating a whole community that doesn't have to assimilate anymore, right? Because now it's like going from India and coming here, and you've got your little India in there, you know, and you don't have to assimilate. They expect us to always speak their language. That's what my experience is. You know, how many of us have to always figure out how to speak Spanish because people come here and they just don't learn the language? And that's what degrades the United States, because it takes us from being a constitutional republic to a misunderstood republic, because nobody's taking the time to say, what is this nation about that I'm joining, that I want to have my liberties and freedoms and opportunities to get rich or to do better or to raise safe families? They're not having a loyalty to that. They're just saying, hey, I'm going to live there and I'm going to be this person, and I'm not going to vote, or I'm going to vote just for this. I'm going to change the laws so that they're more social because I come from a social background and I feel safer with a social background. It just changes the whole mentality of what the American culture is. Does that make sense?
Yep. Well, I think we used to have standards also. And the standards used to be strictly enforced, and the standards have gone from here to here to here. And I think that's another key part of it when you're talking about citizenship and what it means to be an American. You know, just because you're here doesn't make you an American. And I think that was a big part of what Chandler was saying. He was speaking directly to Indians, literal citizens and residents of India that are coming here exploiting the visa process. Okay, he's not speaking of people that are of Indian descent. That's a very different thing. But they also do have to adhere to these higher standards, the standards that have been put forth by our founding fathers, and so on and so forth. We cannot just abandon that entirely because it's the 21st century and that's over. That is unacceptable, and we're not going to do that. So,
well, we can't keep a strong nation if nobody feels they're part of that nation. If a person is going to move here and they don't assimilate, we're having the issue with Sharia law. Sharia law with the Islamic Muslims in Dearborn, Michigan. They're city council members, and they're changing the laws. They play the Adhan out loud because part of in the city councils, you're allowed to ring church bells. So now they're doing their Adhan all these times of days, but it's invading the space of other Christians. So we have always in the United States respected other religions, but it's not a respectful way when you're blaring your Adhan and everybody else is sleeping still. Like, hey, you want to have your prayer 5 times a day, have your prayer 5 times a day, but don't wake me up to do it, or stop traffic in the street. So that's the salad bowl effect of everybody bringing their culture here and not assimilating, because that's not assimilation, that's dominating the area.
Yeah. So I think Jennifer wants to know, what do I say to people who said your comment was racist? So, the first thing is you have to be thinking about race for it to be racist, right? So India is a nationality. Islam is a belief, a way of thinking. There's white gingers who are Muslim. So I'm not racist. I served in the military with literally people of every race. And I think I personally served with people from at least 50 different countries, direct immigrants who had moved here and joined our military and swore an oath to our country. And I kind of alluded to a funny story last night in the council meeting where I was like, I remember a great story where I had 2 guys in my platoon that were both immigrated here from Kenya, and they both got put in the same platoon, and they were from rival tribes in Kenya. They said if they both went on vacation back to Kenya and landed in Kenya, they would have to immediately fight each other because they're from rival tribes. But here, we're literally in the same platoon, working together, and they're like, here, we're Americans, and we love America, and we're going to serve together. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. All right. They've set a great example. Okay. And
that
so
is a perfect example.
And so I don't care. We're bringing them. Again, we can do it in the right way with the right numbers, but that was loyalty to the United States. And so all I'm asking is that we're showing loyalty to the United States. And then we have to remember that as well, that we're a Christian nation. Our values, our government values are based off of us being a Christian nation. So you also can't bring over too many people that are not Christian. We have freedom of religion. You can bring some over, but if you bring people over that are so different, that have different religions, like Islam's a great example, there's going to be direct clashes. And if your religion isn't even compatible with our laws, how do you come over here and follow the laws? So
you don't. You can't.
You look at the American, they're barely Americans, but the Trantifas and the left and stuff like that, who just are atheists and they just despise. And if I had said what I just said right now in front of one of those people, they would literally lose it and scream, and they look like they're possessed by demons. And guess what? They're false. So it's like there is a point where you have to see the relation between Christianity and our laws, and we can have a freedom of religion, and we can bring over people to an extent with other religions and stuff. But at the end of the day, there has to be some math done. Like how many of these people are we bringing over? Where are they going? And are they assimilating? So
yeah, and if they're not assimilating, do they benefit our country?
Good question, right? And if we can't ask those questions without being called a racist, then we can't answer the question, right?
Mm-hmm. So. Now, Joe, you came from New York. Tell us what it's looking like in New York right now, because there's been a lot of going on over there with the laws changing and socialist behavior.
It's rough. It's my friends I'm from a small town, right, in upstate New York. I'm not from New York City, although I lived in New York City for quite a while before moving down here. And so I'm familiar with both ends of the spectrum there. And when you get upstate New York, it's red. It's very red, very conservative. And it's like Midwest values, and it's salt of the earth people. And when I go back and visit, which I'm actually going back tomorrow, so I'll have some more feedback. But when I go back and visit and speak with my old friends from high school and whatnot, they tell me they see what's coming down the pipeline. They see what's happening in the school districts because they're being run from, Albany, which is, liberal and woke. And, I mean, they're up there with, like, I'm talking rainbows in the classroom, rainbow flags, trannies in the schools, pushing the tranny stuff. It's really bad. So I have a lot of friends that are very concerned, and they kind of want to follow my lead and get out of there. But a lot of them are farmers. A lot of them have land that's been passed down to them for generations. They don't just want to leave. They don't just want to give up, and they don't want to leave this soil that has been theirs for hundreds of years. So it's a difficult moral dilemma that they all face. So I'm sure I'll have a lot of conversations with them about that kind of thing this weekend. And then the guns, ultimately. I mean, they keep infringing on the gun rights up in New York, and there's going to come a point where it's good. There's lines that are going to be crossed. For me, they were already crossed. So for me, it wasn't a choice. It was fight or flight, basically. So yeah.
Wow, and you were
Florida,
upstate New York. You weren't like in the city where it's really hardcore down there.
Well, I was. So I grew up upstate, but then I was in New York City, actually Astoria.
That's where I'm from.
Yeah, I was in Astoria for a while, and that's where I met my wife. And once we had kids, we moved upstate thinking it would be fine. We'd get a nice little house and get a little bit of land, and everything would be great. And then COVID happened, and we started seeing, obviously when it comes to the vaccine, when it comes to masking 2-year-olds, when it comes to infringing on our rights, we saw our neighbors falling one by one. They would say, like, well, we're not going to fall for that. And then when the pressure got turned up, they wouldn't respond to your text. They wouldn't look you in the eye anymore. Yeah. And it was like, I can't raise children.
Why do we do that? Why do people do that? I mean, we're all Americans. We love our freedom.
It's called cognitive dissonance is what it's called. It's called cognitive, thousands of years of programming. So people can't crack the programming. So when they follow the crowd, they follow the matrix. So they might say one thing, but then they're going to follow the matrix because they end up getting either put into fear, guilt, or shame. So you get fear, you get put into fear to do something that you don't want to do. You get guilted in it by somebody that around you that guilt you in it, or they shame you into doing it because everybody else is doing it too, and why aren't you doing it? That's all. And that's all it comes down to. And that's the separation between the wheat and the chaff. And that's what's happened. And that's what we're witnessing on this planet right now is a separation between who's going to stand for good and who's going to stand for what's godly and what's not godly. And those are the ones that are going to stand for what's not godly and what's, like you said, demons. They look at the demons come out of them because technically they are demonly possessed because of the programming and because of what they consume on the TV, the tell lies to your vision, the programming, the whole 9 yards. So that's why you're dealing with that. And that's what he saw in his neighbors. He was like, oh, wow, these guys are falling for the trap.
And that knee-jerk reaction to capitulate in the face of that is the evil. Like a lot of times we think of evil as like a proactive thing. We think of evil as like a genocide or something, but a lot of times the evil is the weakness in the human spirit. It's the ability. It's the quick knee-jerk reaction to just say, you know what, I need this job. So you know what, whatever they say to do, I'm going to do. And that's why we're in this mess. And fortunately, from my experience in Florida, I've met nothing but like real good patriots down here. And down here, it's a lot different. People like whenever there's a scare of COVID coming, a potential COVID-like disaster or pandemic coming back here, you see everyone saying, I'm not doing it this time. People are ready. They're ready to organize. They're ready to put flyers up. They're ready to say, like, hey, let's work together. Let's work together to make sure that we uphold the freedoms that America stands for and not fall victim to it because of fear. So Florida has been a blessing for myself and my family. And that's why this is so dear to me right now, because I'm seeing some of these Republicans that are Republican in name only, and they're they're acting like leftists. So just because you vote Republican, it doesn't mean that it's a conservative. It doesn't mean that it's a patriot that's going to fight, because right now we're in an existential battle for our existence. So we must fight. Yep. And I just want to tie this in, because Charlie Kirk recently, there's that video going around where he says we have to be on the offense, right? Chandler, I believe you saw that, and we had spoke about that. And it's very important we keep that in mind, that we have to be on the offense. So even a podcast like this, a lot of this has been discussing like Chandler having to kind of comment on whether these comments were racist or not. Like, we're always on our back foot. We're always on the defense. And it's even within our own party and our own people, because we're so conditioned to think that we have to like find common ground in the center, when the left does not do that. The left bolts to the left. And what that does is it takes the Overton window and shifts it leftward. And that's why we've been moving left for 50, 60, even 70 years. So for us, if we're ever going to start winning, we have to not concern ourselves with that. And we have to be active and actionable and push things to the right. And that's the only way we're going to win.
Jennifer Pippin knows exactly what you're talking about. She is such a warrior. I want to bring her on stage with us.
Absolutely.
Come on up, Jen.
Talk about this.
Hey, Jen.
Hey guys, how y'all doing?
She is a warrior, just like you were describing, Joe. Right, Jen?
That's right. You guys are my people. Every single one of you. Look at you.
So what's going on with Moms for Liberty, Jen?
So right now we just had a school board meeting on Monday. We've been fighting so hard the past couple of years. Things have actually been, knock on wood, good. I would give the district an A grade. I know, Joanne, you always ask, right? We adopted the classical curriculum. It is the only school that has a waiting list to get in for kindergarten and first grade. They changed the strategic plan to a 2-year plan instead of a 5-year plan. And that was the most, quote unquote, controversial things on the agenda. And literally it was just an hour-and-a-half meeting, real quick. And everything's been going great in the district now that we're number 5 in the state from 37 last year. That's
pretty good. Chandler, you kind of know what she's talking about. You guys had some battles there in Brevard County with your school districts as well.
Oh, yeah. So I was actually, before I was elected, I was back in political activism down in Brevard County. And I remember going to, I believe it was the second Moms for Liberty meeting in Brevard County. And it was, I think, the first one that Ashley Hall was speaking at. My first one might have even been Tina still. And then Ashley might have come a meeting later. But and that was still when Jennifer Jenkins was on the board and Missy Belford was the board chair. And they were voting to mask our kids and just do all these terrible things that you're just in Brevard County. And you're like, we're doing what in Brevard County? And so I got to see the growth of that whole organization. And obviously my beautiful wife was involved in that organization very deeply. And so I got to go to some conferences and some stuff and do my part. I spoke at some school board meetings. So, and that was before kids. Now we're homeschooling anyways, but I'm still glad to know that I did my part. And actually, because of Moms for Liberty Brevard, they recommended me to sit on the Odyssey Charter School Board. And I sat on that until yesterday out of respect for the school. With the controversy, I resigned. It just wasn't, they're a phenomenal school and they didn't need that distraction. So I decided it was the right thing to do. I'd been on the board for 3 years. My time was up for renewal anyways. So I said, I'll just go ahead and resign. You can put a fresh board member on. I think you're doing a good job. But it was a phenomenal experience. We got to do stuff. I've been working on getting them an ROTC program. That's not going to go away. And that's all because of Moms for Liberty Brevard. So, which, again, if you're watching this, though, remember that your district school board is not the only school board in your county. You have charter schools and you have private schools. And one thing that I've noticed a shift in locally is that all of the laws DeSantis has passed have been good laws. And so now those super liberal teachers are going from the public schools and they're shifting to some of these private schools. And for whatever reason, the boards or whatever is not policing them. So now they're kind of doing some bad stuff in there because those state laws don't apply. So I would make sure that you're looking at your private schools and your charter schools and ensuring that they didn't just take the public school stuff and go over there and release it in the private schools.
Wow. Joe, what did you guys see in your school districts in New York? Were you in New York during COVID? I don't remember.
Yeah, I was in New York during COVID, and my children were really young at the time. And my older son, who's on the spectrum with high functioning autism, he was having a hard time learning speech from these teachers in the school that he was in, covering their face, and it was like it just everything just felt wrong about it, as I'm sure you're all well aware, having lived through it too. But up there was much worse. We were talking years plural of this masking and like just draconian measures if somebody were to, God forbid, contract COVID. I mean, our family had gotten COVID once, and I mean, it was like a 3 or 4 week process of like just administrative tape just to like be able to go back to school, and it was really crazy. Honestly, I'm like traumatized over it, what I witnessed up there. Those people, you mix a little bit of the woke mind virus with some true fear from COVID, and it's a recipe for just absolute mental breakdown and
Wow.
social disaster. So yeah, it was really rough. And we came down here on vacation. We weren't even planning to move here. Came to visit some family, and we went down by the water, had dinner, and we just had a great time. And it was like it had been like 8 months since we really got to go out in public and enjoy ourselves. And we were like, what are we doing? So we just dropped everything, sold everything, and moved down here. My wife, she's a public school teacher. She was forced from her position as New York City teacher for not getting the vaccine and standing true and holding the line. So she's a hero too in this. And, obviously, at extreme financial burden to our family to just give up our careers and come down here. So.
Yeah, because even the wages are different down here. And I wanted to ask you about because you have a special needs child, if you have lost any services from moving.
So we did lose a little bit in the beginning. It was hard, but fortunately my wife is an ESC teacher, so we were able to kind of homeschool our way through it, I guess you would say. But we're in Indian River County, and the school district here is great. It really is. We've had all positive experiences here, and people say that Florida schools aren't as good as New York schools, and that's not true. It's just not true. You may have teachers that have like more qualifications and more master's degrees and stuff in New York, but that comes at an expense. That comes at a woke mind virus expense, a brainwashing expense. And down here, you have real people, real salt of the earth, real Americans, patriots that are teaching our children to be Americans. So that matters to me a lot more than whatever they're teaching in New York. So.
Yeah,
I feel for you, Joe. I don't know how anybody could have gone through COVID in New York with Comey's, or what? Not Comey, but Cuomo's, totalitarian style governments up there. To my heart ached. Like, I have little kids, so we had them during COVID. Well, my youngest is 5, so she's my COVID baby, and she's stoked. But I see all my friends, because I'm a late goer, with these older kids who missed out on so much through high school. And it's like, I hurt for them, that wanted to do prom and football and this and that. And they shut down so much. These kids lost so much of their childhood that only happens once. And then, and then on top of that, we're expected to send them to a university to get brainwashed. So congratulations on leaving New York. I've got family in Connecticut, and they're just not smart enough to get the hell out of it. And,
thank you.
Frankly, I'm okay with it because they haven't changed their mind when it comes to voting either.
Well, a lot of these people have to really make a sacrifice like Joe did to make that move, because it's really expensive in New York. And to just drop everything and move like Joe did, that really it's a brave thing to do. It's like, you're saying, hey man, if I fuck up now, it's going to get better because I still have years ahead of me to put it back together, but we got to get out of this poop hole, and you got to do what you got to do for your family. And I think it's courageous to do that.
Yeah. And Chandler, I wanted to thank you. I come across your story. Like you said, originally we were going to have you on the show to talk about that march, and I want to hear more about the march. And that's what got my attention, because I've like I told you before the show, I grew up in Brevard. I was a part of the Brevard Young Republicans Federation 20 years ago, and I kind of saw the nasty politics in the school board then. And then I kind of kept up with Randy Fine and the Jenkins saga and those other those now media outlets or campaign managers who are, gaslighting the public. But so when I come across the story with the march, I was like, that's awesome. That's you don't see that kind of stuff, especially because Palm Bay is pretty diverse from my experience in that area. And to see that somebody on a city council, which you don't see enough of, is actually being bold and unapologetic about their patriotism. We don't see that. We don't see that in red Florida, red Central Florida, or red South Florida,
or in Vero Beach.
Well, that's my point. We see, these fence sitters where it's safe for them to pretend like they're Republicans, but they're not. So when I saw you on the march with open carry, with American flags, and you're praising Charlie Kirk, I was all for getting you on the show. So tell us more about that march, and tell us how.
That's just how I think, man. Charlie was shot. I actually, I didn't even make a post about this because of what happened to Charlie. I was with the lieutenant governor that day. And we were doing a tour of the Palm Bay Police Department range, and we were shooting together and hanging out with the police officers and stuff. And I came home like ready to make a cool post about hanging out with the lieutenant governor or whatever. And, I walk in the door and my wife's like, Charlie got shot. And I couldn't believe it. And I looked at it, and it impacted I think all of us so much, because for starters, Charlie was the moderate. And for other reasons, it's like, this guy wants to do nothing but just talk with you, and you shot him in front of his wife and kids. And if you can do that to the moderate, you can absolutely do that to any one of us, right? And so the vigils were wonderful. I went to some of the vigils. We prayed for Charlie, but to me, it was like these people have existed. That wasn't an isolated incident. There's already been those domestic terrorists have already attacked Christian schools. They've already attacked ICE facilities. They already shot at our president twice. This is part of that color revolution. Instead of looking at all these leftist stuff as individual items, we have to look at it as a whole, at the totality of the circumstances. And so I took that as the color revolution in our country taking the next step. They have brought this full-on kinetic. They have committed a political assassination. We're not going back. Things are moving forward in a bad direction. There was a lot of anger on our side, especially, and people get upset because they don't understand. But it's like, men, if we're conservatives that agree that like men and women are different, and some people are different, while women want to go have a vigil and they want to pray. When something like that happens, men want to strap up and raise the black flag and take care of business. But obviously, there's a way to do that, and what we didn't want is for our own guys to get in trouble by doing something they shouldn't. So I said, you know what? We're going to have kind of a more aggressive posture and something a little more masculine, but still peaceful. And so that's what we did. So we organized a march. It allowed us to walk together, to show the whole city, walking through our major corridor, thoroughfare, Malabar Road, with flags and everything else. We had a security element of my own people, because the Florida Today reporter said, why do you have armed guys walking with you? I looked at him and said, we're walking for political assassination, dude. And he ended up not quoting me on that one. Probably realized I was a dumb question. So,
and guess what? Nobody got shot that day.
Right. But the cool thing was the day, unfortunately, it was that day because we didn't even get to celebrate it. But the day Charlie got killed, the judge in Florida overturned the open carry law. So you can now legally open carry in the state of Florida. So I was like, well, I actually want it for protection, but it's also good aesthetics. And of course, we got a great picture out of it. Great pictures. The media can't seem to not like those pictures because I think they think it makes us look bad, but I think they go pretty hard, honestly. My security guys love them. They're in like all the pictures. I mean, if you're going to spend all that time working out,
Got my attention.
yeah, if you're going to work out, buy all that gear, you want to be able to show it off somewhere, right? So all the guys got good pictures. But at the end of the day, we had the chapter chair leader for this whole state of Florida for TPUSA Faith, which is all the churches. That was Pastor Seth Tweeddale. He's local in Brevard County. We had the brand new a representative from the brand new Eastern Florida State College chapter of TPUSA, which they founded 2 hours after Charlie got shot. They sent a letter to TPUSA and said, we're starting a chapter. And it's like got 100 members now already. And then we had Dr. Rick Adante, who was fired from the Florida Institute of Technology for exposing the president. Basically, after Trump got elected, the guy came back and said, Trump's in office now. I talked to the Governor DeSantis. We're not going to do DEI. We're going to kind of call it something different. And so, but there was a lot of really leftist professors that were mad at him for not standing up to the governor. And so, Professor Dante got all this and brought it to James O'Keefe, and they did a whole story on it. And so they fired him for that. So I was like, hey, come up and speak about the left and what you've experienced in the schools and wokeism and stuff. So he spoke, and then I spoke. And the message was just simple, like prayer and activism. Not just prayer. Prayer's good, but also activism.
Yeah.
And, it was unfortunate it had to happen that way, but I've seen just 10x, Grant Cardone, right? 10x the amount of people now want to be involved in politics of some sort. And so I think next election, we're going to have volunteers and people out of the woodworks that we never had before, which would be really good.
I think it's awesome. And thank you for your service, by the way. I know George, who's a continuing contributor of ours, he's an addiction recovery coach and specialist. He said, Chandler, thank you for your service and courageously your voice. There are too many in offices, even here in Indian River County, who are cowards. And that's what I'm saying. Like, there's these hotbed issues, especially for us, because we have a major Hispanic population here. And they allow the narrative to get twisted, and they don't speak out. And then we saw the issue with the books, where you would think this would be a hotbed issue no matter what boardroom you're sitting in. And some just refuse to speak out. So I appreciate what you're doing. And Joe, thank you for everything. You guys are welcome to come back on here anytime to talk about whatever issues we're facing. And I really do appreciate it.
Yeah. I got to give a shout out to Joe. Joe was one of the few people that went to Brevard and Indian River County school meetings, board meetings, and read from the books in the schools. There was a little group of us that went to Brevard after, the Indian River, meeting that we did in August of 2023. So I got to give a shout out to Joe for going and reading pornography and sexually explicit content in front of 2 boards and got, tons of books removed from both boards and really started the conversation, and I know, John, you spoke at ours, Joanne, Mike, but I got to tell you, Joe, he went to both board meetings and just went up there with the books and just read them. So thank you, Joe, for being so
and
bold.
right back at you. That was actually my first foray into public speaking and becoming politically active. Up to that point, I had, never really done any of this stuff. So that really springboarded me into getting involved a lot more, and hosting X Spaces and just really taking this a lot more seriously and acting like a professional and not just somebody complaining at home. So thank you.
Good public speaker. He's such a good public speaker. I shared his video on X.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tell us where we can find you guys on X.
Joe?
Well, my account was just recently nuked, so I'm working on building up a new one.
Okay.
Well, send us a share so that we know where to go.
Will do.
Yeah, share the show, and then I'll add you to all our accounts and help with that, because we're trying to build up to. And the unfortunate thing with X is the shadow banning is still happening, but that's why we push both X and Rumble, and we're live on both right now. So if you're watching, hit that thumbs up, like, and share the show, because the narrative gets twisted. Chandler, your tweet, only a part of that came out, and then you saw all these politically in the circle individuals, it was like something shiny for them. You know, they all had to come out. They all had to say something when they shouldn't have said anything unless they were going to talk to you first or, you know, elaborate on the issue instead of just condemn the person. So
Yeah, I agree. They didn't have to shoot out tweets right away. They could have waited till like you said, they called you, but you were on a plane. They could have waited to get a response at least a day. They didn't have to answer right away, you know.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have to come up with their narrative of how they wanted to oust you. I just really was upset about that because we're Republicans and we see how the Democrats all stick together at their little evil plan. And here the Republicans are, you're standing up for your nation. You're standing up for, you know, Americanism, Christendom, Christianity. Well, I'm trying to think of how Charlie Kirk said it. Christendom. You know, and it's like we should be there with you. We should say, hey, you know, hey Chandler, what happened? You know, they're saying this or whatever. Like,
what was really frustrating,
you've been in the circles.
Yeah, what was really frustrating about the whole thing is, you know, if you go back to 2020, especially to the George Floyd stuff, but even if you go back farther, it's like you can call a white person whatever you want. You know, we've been called by elected officials, particularly on the left, racist, and even at the meeting last night, I was called a racist, a cross burner, a Nazi, other things. They say all these nasty things to dehumanize you, to this and that. Like, let me make something clear. My ancestors came off the boat at Jamestown 7 years after Jamestown was founded. They fought in the Revolutionary War. Like, yes, I'm an American, and that doesn't make me like more special than someone who came later necessarily, but it does make me like an American, you know? So if I can't say one thing about one group, then shut the hell up about me. Or let's be able to say what we want because it's freedom of speech. But you got to pick one. So the double standard is pretty aggravating.
Well, they don't like dialogue. It's like, prove you wrong. It's like, if you don't like what I said, then have some dialogue with me. Prove, you know, change my mind, you know, make me retract what I said. If you can't do that, then shut up and move on. You know,
I have a question for Chandler. Chandler, these people who sent letters to the governor, the people who have, you know, kind of been outspoken, have you had conversations with any of these people now that you're not on the plane? Like, I would love to know the follow-up dialogue, you know, if any.
Well, the ones that sent letters to the governor, no. I mean, that was like letters to the governor for my removal, which Senator Mayfield never reached out to me personally, and she just sent the letter. So no, with her, the council, we can't really see. The thing with the council is we have sunshine law, so we can't talk. We couldn't talk before, and then all four of them voted for the letter. So I'm not going to talk to them about it. The letter's passed, and I think it sets a terrible precedent, and I'm pretty ashamed and embarrassed in the council. Now, some of the other officials, you know, we've had some private conversations, and I'm not going to go into those because they're private, but and then, of course, like I said, the leaders in the Indian community, we've had great conversations, and we're going to have more going forward. I've got lunches planned with some of them. So, again, this was a simple misunderstanding from the aspect of, like, yeah, it was a spicy ex post, but the point was to get traction going on immigration stuff and not on American Indians. And of course, the left orchestrated a brilliant attack. I think you got to give them credit when they're smart, but they executed a brilliant attack. And our politicians fell for it, and, you know, unfortunately, the Indian American community fell for it. But like I said, we've had those conversations now. But we need to take our energy now, and we need to focus it on going back after the left.
I think I got your X account up there. It's at Chandler for PB.
Yep.
On X. Yep. And I got you, and we'll definitely share that for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Go ahead. Did you have anything else, Joanne?
No, just thank you, Chandler, for sticking it out. You know, that's what you have to do as a politician. You got to be a warrior and stick it out, and, you know, have that open dialogue. That's what Charlie Kirk did. He was marvelous at it. I think he was just a savant when it came to dialogue. The guy just kept so calm, even when people were tearing him up, and God just gave him a gift, and we saw how it affected all of us. We didn't burn cities. We didn't go to the police department and hate them for not protecting him. We resolve to prayer and unity and saying, look, we're going to take,
Marches, you know,
yep,
yeah.
we're going to take this country back with love and loyalty and with Jesus Christ in our hearts. You know,
Right.
that's who we are.
Jen, real quick, we'll talk more about it next week, but Moms for Liberty big summit coming up. Are there still tickets available?
Yep, there are tickets available. It does sell out. So there's 1-day tickets or 3-day tickets. You can go on www.momsforliberty.org and see the speakers and the lineup and things like that. I know we'll get into the nitty gritty next week, but yeah, if you want to purchase your tickets, again, it could be for 3 days or 1 day. And, you know, a lot of the speakers have already been announced and breakout sessions and things like that. And for the people who can't go, a couple weeks after the summit, they will put the live video so you can go on there and watch them, you know, after, if you're unable to attend or if they sell out.
Awesome.
Is that the national event, Jennifer?
Yes, that's a national event. Yep. So moms, dads, grandparents, community members from all over the country go to this. There's people coming from Hawaii, Alaska, California, and it's going to be in Orlando, which is really super close. So it's kind of cool. Our first one was in Tampa many, many moons ago. So it's nice to be back in Florida. It's kind of neat.
Is this the one that was in Philadelphia last year?
2 years ago, yeah, when
okay.
we had like 150 people screaming at buildings for like 3 days straight. It was amazing. Yeah, it was. We're in there eating the best food, having the best speakers, and they're literally screaming at a building, just sweating and disgust. Oh, it was horrific. It was horrific.
And you guys have it in a different place every year, right?
Yeah. Yep, we have it in a different, you know, so we came back to Florida again because everybody's like, oh, we want to go to Florida. It's been so long. So, you know, back to Orlando we go. You know, we did it in Tampa and then, you know, back to Orlando. But yeah, people wanted to come back to Florida after being in DC last year and then Philly the year before.
Chandler, what you had something to say, Chandler?
Jen, I was just going to tell you, Jade's in the background. She was laughing at you for talking about the lefties like that, screaming at the building.
That's what they did for 3 days straight. Yeah. We were in there, we were dancing, and we were just having a great time. And I mean, Donald Trump came to the last, two, and we had just amazing speakers. We had DeSantis. It was just incredible, like eating 3-course meals, 6-course meals, like just having the best time. And literally, like in between speakers, we had patriotic music and dance music, and then like you go out to like go get something out of your car or something, and we had all the police there, and they're just screaming at the building for 3 days straight. It was incredible.
I love it when they're triggered. To wrap this up, you can find John on TGI Now on Wednesday nights in the 8 o'clock or Tuesday nights in the 8 o'clock hour. You can catch me on my show, To The Point Podcast, on Wednesday nights in the 8 o'clock hour, and of course the Board Report every Friday in the 7 o'clock hour. And we're working on Benford Chronicles, right?
Right. I'm working on Thursdays at 7.
Yeah. So you guys, Jen, you already know the door is always open to Jen. Chandler, Joe, anytime you have anything or want to get out there or want to collaborate, you guys don't feel hesitant to reach out. And we're glad that you're in this fight. And again, you can follow Chandler at Chandler4PB on X. Joe, we'll start pumping yours out there.
You can just search me on Facebook and add me. My DMs are open. I'm always open to talk with anybody about pretty much any topic, and you can challenge me. You can, whatever it is. But yeah, just search Joe Murphy, and I'm sure we have some similar connections. I know I'm friends with Mike, Jennifer, John, Joanne, everybody here. So yeah.
I don't mean to cut you off, Joe, but I want to bring up Nettie Batch. I don't know Nettie, but I see Nettie's comments and him speaking out in the Grant Valkyria, again, the area I grew up in, and I can just imagine his comments are worth reading. But follow Nettie Batch on Facebook also, because he definitely calls out that Grant Valkyria conflicts, I'll just call it. But Nettie does say liberals are a cult. Since they cannot win elections, they have to resort to dirty tricks to cheat and attempt to overthrow duly elected officials. Let us not forget Hillary's role in the Watergate setup. You're absolutely right, Nettie. And thank you for dropping your comment. And I know I shared this to the Grant Valkyria group, and whatever groups don't kick us out. So again, I appreciate you guys, and I hope to talk to you guys again soon.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys, for coming on. Appreciate y'all.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank y'all.
It's a great show.
We are living through Genesis 50:20 right now. What the enemy meant for evil, God will use for good. And it is a prerequisite for a explosion of Christianity and commitments for Christ. But the second part is equally as important. And that's what I also want to talk about, which is the state of our nation. Which is, praise God, God gave us a respite. Donald Trump won. Young people helped deliver it. But going even beyond that, what is the type of country that we want to live in? I want to live in a type of country where you don't have to lock your doors at night. A type of country where church attendance is going up. A type of country where people are going to get married and have children. A type of country where we are not going to have a Muslim Marxist mayor of New York City. There's something wrong with that, everybody.